How's it going, everyone? It's GadgetsBoy. Welcome to another video. And this one, we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Sony Xperia 1 Mark III. They announced this not too long ago, but now we can actually take a look at this and see what it's all about. And I'm excited for this one because it's packing so much in here. And this is the one for creatives, if you have to put it that way, because everything about this phone is just about creating content and consuming content. Or if you're a gamer as well, this is actually really good as well if you're a gamer. Let's take a look. But wait, before we do that, if you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification as well, so you'll be one of the first people to know every time I upload a new video like this up on the channel. Okay, let's get on with it. Inside the packaging, you get the smartphone itself, so you get the Sony Xperia 1 Mark III, and underneath that you get a USB power delivery plug, which is a 30-watt supercharge, which means you can charge your phone back up to 50% in 30 minutes, which is pretty quick in my book. In there as well, you get your USB cable, of course, and it's just nice and simple. You get a quick start guide as well, so you can read that to quickly get started with the smartphone itself. Right, starting with the back of the device itself. So we have this nice Corning Gorilla Glass 6 with a frosted finishing, and it tracks lots of fingerprints, but it's easily wipeable, so you can just wipe it off and you're good to go again. On the back as well, you have a triple camera setup with a time-of-flight lens, and the first main one is a 24mm focal length, 12-megapixel camera at f1.7, and it's got that Exmor RS mobile lens there as well, so it gives you 82 degrees field of view. And the next one, we have a 12-megapixel ultra-wide angle lens and a 12-megapixel variable zoom lens, and that will give you 70mm at f2.3 and 105mm at f2.8. So you got everything you need there in terms of zooming into your subject wherever you are. On the other side of it, so to the left of the smartphone, you have your SIM card tray. It has a hybrid tray, so you can either put two SIM cards in there, or you can put a microSD card in there to expand the memory. Talk about memory, this has 256 gigabytes of internal memory already, so you might want to expand it with up to 1 terabyte of microSD card. And you also get 12 gig of RAM to accompany that for, you know, multitasking and various things like gaming as well. On the right side of the device, we have a few buttons there. In fact, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 buttons. One is your volume rocker, next is your power button, which is also integrated with a fingerprint sensor, which works really well. It's very quick, it works each and every time, no issues at all. Below that, you have your assistant button, so it's linked to Google Assistant. I haven't played with it enough to know to check whether I can change that or set it to another assistant, but this is set by default to Google Assistant. And below that, you have your dedicated camera button. And remember, we're talking about this is made for content creators and stuff. Having a dedicated camera button just means it's easy to just quickly whip it out of your pocket, press and hold it, activate camera, and snap photos, and off you go. To the bottom of the device, we have a USB-C port that also supports fast charge and a microphone next to it. And up top, we have a 3.5mm headphone jack. So that's not something you get on a lot of smartphones these days, but it's still there. And even though it's still nice and thin, they still managed to include that 3.5mm headphone jack, which makes you think, what's everyone else's excuse for not including it on their smartphone? It also supports LDACs, high-resolution audio, and wireless LDAC as well. So if you're into audio, this is gonna tickle your fancy for sure. On the front, we have 8-megapixel camera. It's not the best. I've been using it trying to take some selfies, and it just doesn't really do the job for me at all. Talk about that front display, we have Corning Gorilla Glass Victus, so you get a really strong glass on the front, so whether you accidentally dropping it or scratching it with your keys in your pocket, this is going to be a lot more robust compared to anything that's below that in terms of Corning Gorilla Glass. Otherwise, this is a 6.5-inch 21:9 Cinewide 4K HDR OLED display with 120Hz refresh. That's a mouthful. And this has also got 240Hz motion blur, and you can really notice this when you're gaming in there. When you combine that with a Snapdragon 888 processor that's in there, 12 gig of RAM, you get a really good experience when gaming especially. This is actually really nice, light as well. This only weighs 186 grams, and you can feel it. It doesn't feel too heavy, it doesn't feel too light, it still feels substantial in hand, and I like the way it feels. I love that 21:9 aspect ratio, especially when you're watching movies and that kind of stuff. It just works really well. When you load up the phone as well, you do get some bloatware, some applications already loaded on there. Not all of them actually bloatware in my opinion. Some of them are actually useful. For example, you have Game Enhancer, which allows you to select your game and do various things, which we'll go through shortly when we get to the gaming section. But let's talk about the settings. So when we go into our settings menu, starting with your appearance, this is where you can set things like your wallpaper and also always on display. Because this is OLED display, we have the advantage of always on display, where you can set things like your sticker, so you can select different pictures and make it yours. And you can also change what to show as well on that ambient display. And most importantly, you can also change the clocks as well. If you go back into appearance settings, so you can change the clock style of what you see on the always on display, which I quite like. I've chosen the analog clock, which looks classic and classy. If we go into display settings, you can change all kind of different things, from color gamut to contrast to video enhancement, video image enhancement, because using that processing power in there, you can also upscale video footage and stuff. But what I really want to touch upon is the high refresh rate. By default, it's not on 120 Hertz, so you'd have to go into settings and actually switch that on. Otherwise, there's no other option on there to change things like the display settings in terms of 4K. There's no stepping it down and stuff like that. So if you're really brave, you're just going to stick it to 120 Hertz all day long and just hope that that 4,500 milliamp hour battery in there will last you all day to actually use this comfortably well. Elsewhere, you got side sense as well. Side sense is still there in one-handed mode. In side sense, you can change things like add headphone controls, multi-window menu. You can just swipe out from the right, and you can access those things. And from experience as well, it also learns with the way you use your phone, so you can populate those with the applications that you use the most. So once you do side sense, things like Call of Duty for me would appear, because I play a lot of Call of Duty mobile, so I see that straight away on there, which is useful. In audio settings as well, you can change a couple of things which I quite like. You got Dolby Atmos. In Dolby Atmos, you can change things from like dynamic, movie, music, or you can customize it as well. There's also the option to do your own customizable equalizer. So in there, you can go into dynamic, music again, but when you go into custom, you can then change that as well. And you got your intelligent equalizer, which you can change from balanced to warm to detailed to off completely. And you got dialogue enhancer as well, which is useful for perhaps when you're listening to podcast audio. You can change those settings for yourself. You can turn it on and off if you wish to do so. You then also have 360 spatial audio, spatial, you decide. You've also got that as well. I experienced this with the WF XM4s, 1000 XM4 in-ear headphones, and they sound amazing. They sound really well, but you'd need applications like Tidal to do that. But I think they're offering 3 months free Tidal subscription if you do get one of these as well. So you can take advantage of that and actually experience it and see if it's something that you would use on the long term. You then have DSE Automate as well, which helps you upscale music and get more detail out of your standard music that you've already got on, maybe like Spotify, for example. But this doesn't work when you've got 360 spatial audio on. So you'd have to decide which one you'd prefer to have on or off. You've also got intelligent wind filter. So again, I've experienced this before, but this works especially when recording audio. So it removes all those wind noises. So again, you get really good sound quality when you're recording audio using your Xperia 1 Mark III. Back under security, all you've got is fingerprint unlock and pattern, password and pin code. There's no facial unlock on this one, but to be honest with you, I prefer fingerprint unlock. It works each and every time, and there's no complaints there at all. More of that 4K HDR display. This is actually one of the best displays I've experienced myself, and you've still got that vibrating sound and vibration as well. So if you're watching movies, for example, you can use that dynamic vibration at the same time, so you get a bit more immersed into what you're watching. And like I said, the display on this is probably one of the best I've used on a smartphone. It just looks fantastic. I mean, watching 4K content on air is just so good, so rich in color. The blacks are great. It just looks really nice. What's also new with the Xperia 1 Mark III is the fact that now when you launch your camera application, if I just load it up on here, once you load it up, you have this new application, this new interface, and it's not that new if you're used to Sony cameras in general. You got things like basic at the top and your menu option and more. So if you go into more, for example, you can select your slow motion option, panorama, creative effect, and portrait selfie. If you go into menu, you'll be able to change things like your aspect ratio, bearing in mind that different aspect ratios mean you get different megapixel options. So 4:3 will give you the full 12 megapixel option, but if you were to select 16:9, you only get 9 megapixel, for example. So bear that in mind. You got your drive mode, so you can do single shooting, or your timer, or you can do rapid burst as well. I think rapid burst will do up to 25 frames per second, which is a lot, and you're not meant to miss any moment using that. You got focus mode as well. You can do single shot autofocus, continuous autofocus, but you also got face and eye autofocus, which works with animals as well as human beings as well. So in terms of focus, it works amazingly well, and I have no doubt in that area at all. It works really well in the previous version as well, so it should work good on here. I hope so. You can also decide what happens when you select the launch button as well. So whether you want the pro photography option or you just want the basic mode, you can do so. But if you go back out and select that basic option, better off looking at this in landscape mode, because you can then select auto mode, So everything is automatically detected, like you're seeing and stuff like that. You got program auto, you got shutter speed priority, you got your manual exposure mode, and you got memory recall as well. So depending on which one you go for, you'll be able to change different things like your shutter speed, your ISO settings, and even your focus as well. Autofocus on, you can either select your metering mode, like center spot, or multi-metering mode. You can do that, you can lock it as well. You can change different lenses as well that you want to use, whether it's your ultra-wide at 16mm, or you can go all the way to 105mm for telephoto camera lens. So this gives you that pro photo mode, which I think your enthusiasts or people who are into that content creation on mobile phones would really love to use, and it just works really, it looks really nice. But where you really get your really good shots here, in my opinion, is when you go fully manual and you can adjust different things. But for everyday use, when you just want to go auto, I'll come back when I do my review and show you some photo samples that we take from that. Another important application on there is the Cinema Pro app, which is for video. So in here you can, the first interface you see, if you've used one of these before, you understand the interface straight away. But you got your audio signal at the bottom left of the screen, and it tells you what you're recording in, like H-log format, the codec H.265, the battery that's left, and your memory as well. To the right of that, you can change resolution from 2K and 4K. So you can change project frames per second as well, so from 23 all the way to 60 frames per second, basically 59.94. You can add looks as well, so you have different LUTs, basically LUTs. You can add different ones, so you got Venice settings on there. We've got lens as well, so you can change different lens, focal length. You got ISO settings, shutter settings, white balance, and focus as well. You can also change what happens on your display, so you can see different things on the display as well. You can also grab screenshots as well, so when you're filming, you want to grab different scenes, so you can remember different markers. You can use this to grab that screen, and you can remember what happened at that moment. So that's another useful feature on there. But otherwise, if you just come back out and you go back into your photo app, you can also record videos directly from there, so you can switch between photos and video. So you can do just basic video recording by going in there as well. But even in that settings, you can then select things like program auto, manual focusing, manual exposure mode, and stuff like that. So you can do that as well. So there's a lot going on in terms of software, in terms of what you can do with the Xperia 1 Mark III. And this is not a smartphone for everyone. This is a smartphone for those who just wants to do a lot more with their phone that your basic phones might not be able to do, perhaps. But if this actually translates to the real world in terms of the photo quality that you can actually get from this, that's a different conversation to have. That we're going to put that into test when I do the review, which the review will be more detailed and look into the sides of the things that Sony is shouting about. So photography, gaming, the screen quality. So those are the things that I'll be focusing on, and audio as well. That I'll be focusing on when I do the full review for this very soon. But for my first impressions though, I think it's got so much going for it. It got really good display quality, fast processor in there, so the latest Snapdragon 888 processor. You got fast charge available, you got 3.5mm headphone ports, high resolution audio support, spatial audio. There's so much you can do in settings as well. One thing I forgot to mention as well is when you go into gaming, you can adjust equalizer settings. You can even adjust things like your visual as well, from gaming to standard mode. So it gives you extra options there as well. You can even capture what you game in, so you can record, you can reverse time record on there as well when it comes to gaming, and you can even shut off so many things, so you are fully focused on your gaming experience, and it's just great. And if you have a PS4 controller, DualShock controller, you can actually use that with this as well. Hopefully they'll update this so we can use PS5 controller with that DualSense mode. So being able to use that with this would be amazing if that was to happen. Sony, if you're watching, let's make that happen. But otherwise, I think it's got a lot going for it. Great camera as well, but the camera is where I'm a bit skeptical. I'm not sure yet until I start using it properly and see what it's like in the real world. And battery life. Those are my two concerns: camera quality and the battery life when using this, especially in that 120Hz refresh rate mode. But time will tell. I'll bring that back to you when I'm ready for my review. So that's it for the Xperia 1 Mark III. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to unpack on this smartphone. There's a lot going for it. But if you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I'll leave all relevant links there as well, so you guys can check it out, do your research as well. But in the meantime, if this is your first time around here, do subscribe, smash the like button, share it as well. It's very much appreciated. But yes, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.